Yes, there's going to be some good humor today, and I hope all of you will keep that in mind when your files get cleared out. But I think this question of vulnerability, it's kind of funny. I walked in and beautiful day outside. It's, great autumn day. And then the chatter just starts to be about vulnerability and exposure. And then you hear like little whisperings about email and how do we, how do passwords get taken, and FBI gets used as a name in here, and some other things that are happening. So there's a shroud of mystery that already kind of has occurred as we begin on this topic. But this is really a great opportunity to come back. In 2014, we had a cybersecurity panel, and we're lucky that Jonathan Adams is back to take us from 2014 and talk a little bit about what's happened in the years since then. So now that we've got 4 years more of experience, and at the speed of things, that's probably like 4,000 more years of what's happened, because the pace of everything has increased so much. We're really delighted to have some experts here today to talk about this. So Jonathan Adams, who's the president of Salix Data, obviously has returned for us, and he's going to have some cybersecurity experts from U.S. Bank and Global Business Solutions to update us on what's happening with this ever-changing landscape.
One of the most terrifying things for us today is when you start thinking about how do we keep our most sensitive information secure in a world that's constantly changing. And so anytime that you tell stories about cybersecurity, there's definitely going to be some fear that comes out, because even some of the stories that Carol shared just in the intro, you think, wow, the risks are all over the place. But that is not our goal of today. So there will be some scary stories that are shared, but our goal is to make sure that you leave here with some tangible things that you can do to better secure both your company's infrastructure and even for you personally. And so we have an exceptional panel here today to be able to help make sure that we do that, and they will keep us on track. And so we're going to start with Michael.
A couple of things I'm going to show you today can be done by third graders. Well, how many in the room know what a Wi-Fi pineapple is? Ever heard of it? Excellent. I turned it on at about 11:15 today, and I actually shut it off at 12 o'clock before Carol came up here and started talking. And in that amount of time, 77 of you gave me something to get into. I did not do anything malicious to any of your devices today. Okay? I could have, but didn't. I'm not a criminal. You're not at Starbucks, and this isn't open season on you. Your end user doesn't have a clue that they just typed their Office 365 username and password getting into Outlook while they are at Starbucks. And now I own that. 95% of small and medium business who get hacked are no longer in business within 6 months of being hacked, because the fines and fees put them in bankruptcy. And 77 of you today were vulnerable in this room. It's widespread, folks, and we have employees that are constantly taking our resources to Starbucks, to wherever they go throughout the day, and get on open Wi-Fi all the time, where people are doing this thing where they're at.
So as was mentioned, my name is Chris Van Dyke with GBS. I am actually our cloud services manager, and I also deal with cybersecurity at GBS. I'm not going to scare you as much as Michael did here today. I'm basically going to talk to you a little bit about things you can be susceptible to as it pertains to the cloud, and what you can do to kind of mitigate some of the risks that are out there. So what can you do to actually protect your infrastructure from problems? The first thing is multi-factor authentication is a very simple and easy thing to do. What MFA really is the ability to use more than just your username and password to authenticate somewhere. When we're talking about the cloud in particular, there are things you need to put in place in order to make sure that your environment stays secure. And this is regardless of whether you're consuming just a simple web service somewhere or you're building large-scale infrastructures. The first thing is make sure you implement firewalls, web application firewalls, antivirus, and content filtering on those things. That's your gateway defense from somebody coming in from the internet and getting in there. Using configuration automation tools such as Chef or Puppet or Ansible to deploy those things out there is a good tactic to use. It's very important when you're talking about any infrastructure out there, whether it's on premise or out in the cloud. You want to make sure that you're getting good backups, because a lot of times what we like to say, it's not so much a question of if you're going to get hacked, but when, and how do you recover from that. So making sure that you have good backups, timely backups, will allow you to recover from before that infiltration occurred. And then you also want to make sure that you apply updates. In technology, one of the old adages for a long time was, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But in reality, technology has come a long way, and things are being developed now with the premise that you should be updating often, because vulnerabilities come out so quick, you need to make sure that you're on top of it. So applying updates is very important.
Dave Kuhn, I work at US Bank. US Bank is 7th largest bank in the US. We have over 70,000 employees. I run, like Carol said, the threat detection and incident response team at the bank. Basically, that is the team that's 24/7 responding to all the stuff you heard about today. What's relevant to this organization here? What's relevant to you? And what we thought about was business email compromise and third-party risk. When you're dealing with another organization and you're letting them connect to you, or you're letting them have their data, or have your data, your customer's data, you need to not only just trust that they're doing the right thing for their security, but you need to also verify that they're making sure they're doing the right things. A compromise of a third-party organization is potentially a compromise on your organization. Basically, what a business email compromise, for those who aren't aware, is basically a social engineering attack. You're utilizing the email platform to act like some person, to send an email to another person to get them to do something they wouldn't normally do. A couple steps to protect yourself. So the first one, MFA, Multi-Factor Authentication for email. If you are just using user ID and password today, you need to use, and you're externally accessible, you need to use some type of multi-factor authentication. It's a must, right? That multi-factor authentication can be a token, it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just get yourself out of the pack of users that are the target today. Be suspicious of the requests for secrecy, right? And pressure. You want to instill a culture in your organizations that can ask questions, right? You want to make sure that if they get this pressure, they know they can come to you and say, hey, this just doesn't feel right. Consider additional steps within your the banking, IT, and financial services. But put in procedures within that process to transfer funds for someone else to check it, right? Because if you have this control in one person, it's a lot more successful if you just have one person controlling this whole process. Put a second check in it. Have another person that's outside of the social engineering attack review this. Implement an external email banner. This is a simple thing, right? What you want to do is just anytime an email comes out from outside your organization, you put a banner up on the email that says, hey, this is an external email. And another great thing is it's great for email filters. So you can separate what's an internal email and what's an external email. And again, the last thing, educate your employees. You need to make sure your employees understand there's an enemy out there, understand that these cyber criminals are daily trying to get funds, trying to monetize anything they can to get their hands on. So if you can do that, you guys can be successful in mitigating this.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Dave, Michael, and Chris, for a wonderful presentation. I don't know about you guys, but I can sometimes stress causes me to eat, and I ate 2 giant peanut butter cookies while sitting here listening to these guys today, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how many places am I exposed, and how many places should I worry about? So if I just kind of did one lap, the one single thing that each one of you would have us do today out of today's talk, what's one thing?
On your email, 100%.
Did you hear that? Say it again.
Second factor MFA on your email. Make sure you're not just using user ID and password.
Okay, great, thank you. Number one thing.
Don't use default anything. Change it to suit your needs.
Okay, one thing.
Shut your Wi-Fi off on every single device until you're actually really using it.
Stay away from Michael, one thing. John.
And then training of your employees. You can have the greatest infrastructure, all the best technology. If your people aren't prepared, there'll be vulnerabilities all over the place.
So great lessons, and if you take away just that one thing from each of these gentlemen, that'll be very powerful. And if in doubt, don't, is often the good rule of thumb. All right, so wonderful panel. One more round for these guys.